Today, we are recapping a 2010 adventure and drama film called Arctic. Mads Mikkelsen once said this movie may have been the toughest thing he has ever done in his life. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this powerful survival story. The film follows a man named Overgaard, who is stranded alone in the Arctic after his small plane crashes. Overgaard begins his day by digging deep into the snow. He turns off the alarm on his watch and pauses to check how much progress he has made before heading back to the shelter of the broken plane. Written clearly across the dark earth, surrounded by blinding white snow, is the word SOS. It is obvious that carving this message must have taken him a very long time and a great deal of effort. After returning his tools to the plane, Overgaard walks out again to inspect the fishing system he has carefully set up for survival. He lowers a metal pole into one of the holes he has carved through the ice. Suddenly, the sound of metal clattering against the pulley system alerts him that something is caught. Overgaard carefully pulls a fish out of the freezing water. He looks at it respectfully, knowing this fish is his only source of food. He places the freshly caught fish into a bright blue container and chooses another fish that is already frozen to eat for now. Back inside the plane, Overgaard skillfully cuts the fish into small pieces. He eats slowly, savoring each bite while sitting completely alone, lost in thought. After resting, he picks up his distress beacon and hand-crank dynamo and steps back out into the harsh white emptiness. He cranks the device, hoping for a response, but there is none. He looks out at the vast, beautiful, and cruel Arctic landscape before returning once more to the shelter of the plane. As night falls, Overgaard removes the socks from his frostbitten feet. He prepares himself for sleep, wrapping tightly inside his sleeping bag for warmth. When morning comes, he begins his daily ritual. He walks over to a small mound of stones, a cairn, that he has built as a memorial. He carefully brushes away the fresh snow and softly says, "See you tomorrow," before leaving it behind. Overgaard continues working on removing a large rock that has been trapped in the frozen ground for days. After constant effort, the rock finally breaks free. He rests briefly in the freezing wind as snow starts falling again. When he returns to check his fishing lines, he notices something terrible. His bright blue container has been broken open and emptied. Large paw prints lead away from it. Realizing what this means, Overgaard cautiously looks around before running back to the plane. He locks the door behind him and sits there in shock. The fear, exhaustion, and pressure of daily survival overwhelm him. Still, his routine keeps him focused. He checks the distress beacon again, but there is no response. He turns off his watch alarm and heads back toward the plane. As he walks, he suddenly sees a polar bear moving silently across the frozen land, alone, just like him. The next morning, Overgaard repeats his routine. He cleans the snow from the cairn, digs again into the unyielding ice, and selects a single fish from his shrinking supply. As he cranks the dynamo, counting the turns, something unexpected happens. The green light on the distress beacon suddenly turns on as the weather worsens. Overgaard freezes, then rushes to grab a flare. He waves it wildly as a rescue helicopter appears overhead. Laughing with relief, he shouts and waves at the helicopter pilot. But his happiness quickly turns into disbelief and despair as strong winds prevent the helicopter from landing. Moments later, it crashes. Overgaard runs to the wreckage. He drags the pilot, who has died, out into the snow to reach a young woman inside who is badly injured and unconscious. He frees her from her seatbelt, checks her wounds, finds the medical kit, and settles beside her for the night. The next morning, he checks to see if she is alive. He gently wraps his scarf around her neck. He gathers supplies from the helicopter, including flares, an ice pick, and a detailed map. He eats the dry noodles he finds, starving and desperate. Removing the helicopter door, he carefully straps the woman onto it and tells her they are moving. He leaves a written note saying there are 2 people alive and pulls her back to his plane. Before he pulls her away to the shelter of his plane, Overgaard cradles her gently before easing her down to rest. He examines her injuries, searches for identification, and gives her water. He takes her hand, asking her to squeeze his fingers to show she is conscious, and softly tells her that the helicopter pilot has died. He urges her to stay awake as she drifts in and out of awareness. Overgaard leaves a carefully written note for her to read when she wakes. He respectfully builds a cairn as a memorial. to mark the pilot's resting place and salvages anything useful from the wreckage. Before leaving, he slips a photograph into his pocket. Overguard lets out a dry laugh, saying, "Are you serious?" when he discovers a sled in the helicopter wreckage and loads it with what he has gathered back at the plane. He places the photograph of the young woman's family, where she can see the flame from the gas cylinder he recovered from the helicopter, warms his frozen hands after carefully marking his location, and identifying the area of the red flag on the detailed map from the helicopter, he circles the seasonal station, muttering, "That would be great, but it's too far." He runs to the fishing holes, thrilled to pull up a large trout, which he cooks, adding noodles salvaged from the helicopter, and eats with gratitude. As he begins feeding the semi-conscious young woman, he says, "You have to try this, it's Arctic trout with noodles." He gently reassures her that people are searching for her. Overguard sits beside the feverish woman, placing his hand in hers, which she squeezes faintly. As her condition worsens, he makes the painful choice to leave the safety of the plane and take the direct route to the seasonal station. He gathers the supplies they will need, securing them and the woman to the sled. After leaving a note with their identities and destination, both at the plane and the helicopter, he starts the punishing journey, pulling the sled behind him. Overguard checks his bearings and pauses, staring anxiously at the endless, icy, rocky tundra ahead. He reassures the unresponsive injured woman that they're doing well and grimly keeps moving forward. They stop for the night, and he digs a snow cave where they shelter with him, encouraging her to stay conscious as he feeds her. The next morning, they continue until he reaches the red flag, brushing away the snow to reveal a box. He rests lost in thought and marks his map before opening the box, which contains rope and his identification, which he pockets. Overguard reaches a steep rocky outcrop, not shown on the map. He measures the distance, noting with despair that the longer alternate route lies on the wind-battered side. He chooses to climb to the top and spots a relatively smooth path ahead. He climbs back down and decides to haul the unconscious woman up slowly and carefully. The rope slips from his hands. Overguard tries again, summoning every last bit of strength, driven by sheer determination. He loses his grip once more on the third attempt. He loses his footing, and she slides back down again. He accepts defeat, completely drained mentally and physically. He taps into his most primal instinct to survive. He looks down the slope and says, "We'll take a better way. The longer route around the icy outcrops will add at least 3 merciless days to their journey." He keeps dragging the sled behind him before finding a cave to rest for the night. She is unresponsive when he tries to feed her and give her water. He tells her she has to try and continues caring for her. A polar bear, drawn by the smell of cooking fish, paws at the cave entrance, trying to force its way inside. Overguard fires a distress flare to scare it off. He sits trembling and breaks down in tears. The following morning, he struggles to pull the sled through a blizzard, turning it sideways to shield them from the screaming wind. He collapses utterly, spent beside the unconscious woman in the sleeping bag. When he wakes, he dismantles the makeshift shelter, removes his gloves, and inspects the painful frostbite on his hands. He resumes pulling the sled, overwhelmed by the scale of what lies ahead. When he asks her to squeeze his hand, there is no response. He zips up her sleeping bag and watches over her, deep in thought beside the small fire he has lit. After checking her wound, he gently places her photograph in her unresponsive hand, notices the blood at her mouth, and decides to continue alone. He drags the sled loaded with supplies, pausing when he sees flowers growing at the center of the cairn in the hostile terrain. As he walks on, he falls into a crevasse. He awakens at the bottom of a cavern with one leg pinned beneath a boulder. Despite desperate efforts to free himself, he worsens the injury. Overguard lies back in the snow after the struggle, slowly accepting the dire and dangerous situation he faces. He eventually frees his injured leg and lies in the snow, racked with pain. Before crawling back toward the surface, he limps back to the young woman on the sled and checks if she is still alive. When she responds, he is overwhelmed with guilt for leaving her alone. Overguard breaks down, apologizing for leaving her, telling her, "You are not alone, and it will be okay." These two wounded, resilient people now depend on each other by sheer circumstance. Despite the injury to his leg, he pushes the sled onward. After packing the deep open wound on his calf with snow and tightening a tourniquet to stop the bleeding, he draws on his remaining mental strength and moves forward inch by inch, battling every step while hauling the sled behind him. The young woman coughs, and he stops to give her water, watching as the ground sheet is carried away by the wind. They advance painfully, slowly, resting often with only his will keeping them alive. Overguard removes everything unnecessary from the sled to reduce the weight. He is drained by the physical effort and the lack of food. He crawls slowly up a slope and spots a helicopter landing nearby. He slides back down to the sled, then agonizingly pushes the young woman back up the slope, urging her to hang on there. Here, Overguard is so weak he can barely stand, yet he shouts, trying to draw the crew's attention. He drops to his knees and shakily ignites his final flare with frostbitten hands, but they do not seem to notice. In desperation, he removes his red parka, the only thing protecting him from freezing, and sets it on fire to signal them. The helicopter disappears into the distance as he lifts the young woman from the sled, holding her close, saying she's right here. He stands stunned, clutching her, whispering, "It's okay. You're not alone," she responds when he asks if she can hear him, and he repeats that she is not alone and that everything is okay as he gently lowers her onto the snow. Overguard can go no further, utterly drained of strength. In not being alone, a helicopter lands quietly behind them unnoticed as the film comes to an end. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. Thanks, and see you again soon.